All right, we can slowly start and then the rest of the registrants can join us. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. A few housekeeping items before we get started. This session will be recorded and of course shared with everyone after. You will be on mute for the duration of the session, but we have the Q&A panel, so I encourage you to please do use it, ask any questions that you might have. I will aim to answer your questions as we go through the webinar. Some of your questions might also be answered on the upcoming episodes we have for the series, so we might leave them so we don't spoil too much. But if you do run out of time for anything, we'll make sure to follow up with you after the session as well. With that said, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Eric Mativ. For anyone that hasn't met me, I'm a strategy manager here at Bullhorn for all things automation and AI. This episode is the first of a 4-part webinar series that will be focused on all things Bullhorn AI. In today's session, we'll start with a brief introduction of what's going on in the market, the impact that AI could have on your organization, as well as the impact that AI has already had on some of the early adopters of this technology. And then we'll talk about our approach to AI, what our strategy looks like, what are some of the tools that we've just brought to market to help our customers, and a high-level overview of some of the use cases where AI can be applied. Episodes 2 and 3 will be a deep dive into each of those AI products, so you can get a better understanding of how they work. You can see them in action in a demo, and you can even ask product-specific questions to better understand how these capabilities can help your business and your team. Then the final episode, we will wrap up the series with a customer panel. We'll have Bullhorn clients join us who will share their experience using Bullhorn AI, some real examples of where they have applied this technology, and some of the outcomes that they have seen off the back of their investment. The whole purpose of this session is for you guys to walk away with a good understanding of how you can build and how you can execute an AI strategy successfully in your organization. Okay, so let's get things started. Let's talk about where we are today. What we're now calling is the great state. Job movement is slowing down. Yes, the economy is recovering, but unfortunately, it's not recovering fast enough. So it's this economical uncertainty and political uncertainty on top of everything else that is causing businesses to be cautious when it comes to hiring and growing their headcount. That's not most likely not going to change over the next 12 months. So what this means is that there aren't enough jobs out there for your recruiters to go and get. Business development will be quite challenging, and retaining your existing customers would be extremely important to drive revenue growth this year. Now, what's going on the candidate side? Well, the situation is actually quite similar. More candidates today are rejecting opportunities than they were before, and they're doing it for the exact same reasons. It's that economical and that political uncertainty that is making them prefer to stay where they are and have job security rather than taking that risk and jump onto a new career with a new company, where, as we all know, in cases of recession, the first people in are usually the first people out, right? So it's this pressure that is making candidates be very selective as to when they decide to change jobs. And this is going to be a challenge over the next 12 months. So in essence, not only there aren't enough jobs out there, but also there aren't enough highly skilled candidates that your recruiters can go and get and introduce to your customers. Speed to market will be extremely important this year, and also giving the right tools to your consultants to find those highly skilled candidates before your competitors can introduce them to your customers. This is where AI steps in a big way. Now, most of you are quite familiar with the grid reports. For anyone that is new to them, these are annual surveys that we do with thousands of recruitment professionals, where we ask you for feedback on how the previous year has gone, and also your forecast on what's to come into the new year in terms of priorities, challenges you're expecting to face, and how you plan to tackle some of those challenges. If you haven't seen this report, I highly recommend you go and check it out. It's very extensive. It's a global report. It's also broken down by regions. We're going to drop a link at the end of the webinar so you can go and see it. Now, one of the interesting insights out of this report was focused on AI adoption. What we found was that more than half of the agencies out there are actively experimenting with AI. Right? Most of you out there are already using AI in one shape or form. If it isn't sanctioned by your business, chances are your recruiters have a free version of a ChatGPT somewhere to help them in their day-to-day, like summarizing a candidate profile or improving a job description, that sort of stuff. The interesting part is that only 15% of those agencies have actually invested in an AI strategy. So what this is telling us is that you all know that AI can be incredibly beneficial for your business. It is transformative technology, but you don't know where to start from. And this is one of the things that we'll tackle in this webinar series. Because the early adopters of these technologies, the agencies that have invested in AI, they're already seeing early signs of success. Their communication is more personalized. They are matching better candidates to jobs. The whole recruitment process has been streamlined, and even the screening has become more comprehensive than it was before. And they're making placements quicker, which in the current market is exactly where you want to be. And from a candidate's perspective, your candidates are on board with this as well. Candidates are more than comfortable working with AI, as long as it means that they don't have to wait for days or weeks for someone to get back to them on an application. And the ones that have used AI already are reporting that they're getting responses a lot faster, and the job recommendations they're getting are more suitable to their experience and what they're interested in. So how do we get you there? Well, there are a few stepping stones to building an effective AI strategy. The first one is digitizing your data. 60% of the agencies that grew last year were in the advanced stages of their digital transformation strategy. What this means is that by digitizing your data, you have built a centralized source of truth for your data and operations for your team. In essence, your ATS. Most of you are already there. The second stage is automating. Now, currently, more than 60% of our customers are using automation in one shape or form in their day-to-day. And we know, by looking at the data, that businesses that use automation are 36% more productive compared to the ones that don't. And to translate what that means, people who automate make 36% more placements when compared to the ones that still live in the manual world. Digitizing your data and automating are key foundations for building a strong and scalable AI strategy. And then AI comes next. There are two layers to AI. The first one is user-driven. This is where you put AI tools in the hands of your recruiters to make them faster and better at their job. This can be in the form of generative AI to help them with content creation. It can also be using AI to help them match better candidates for jobs and do it quicker than your competitors. The second layer of AI is, and this, by the way, is where we at Bullhorn are today, that's where it becomes agentic, meaning it can do things on its own without the need for human involvement. Now, 60% of the top performers have digitized their data. Businesses that automate are being 36% more productive. Even if we put a conservative 20% increase in productivity for AI, a business that has built and invested in an AI strategy could be twice as productive when compared to a company that still lives in the manual world and hasn't centralized their data and their operations. This is how transformative this technology can be to your business. So let's have a look at what our strategy is at Bullhorn and how we're approaching AI. We want to reimagine the way that recruitment is being done by pretty much infusing AI everywhere you and your team might need it to be successful. For that, we have built two types. The first one is user-driven. As I mentioned earlier, these will be tools that you give to your recruiters to make them faster and better at what they do. One will be in the form of an AI assistant that they can use to help them with their day-to-day content creation, like summarizing candidate profiles, building an email pitch for a candidate to a job or a job to a candidate, or even from a jobs perspective, improving internal descriptions, external descriptions, those sort of things. From the other side, it will be using AI for search and match to find highly skilled candidates that are a better fit for the job and find them quicker than your competitors can. The second type of AI is the agentic one, where it's autonomous and it can complete complex tasks on its own without the need for human involvement. And there are a few examples for agentic AI. You could have a data enrichment agent that focuses on finding key information like a candidate's email address or phone number, latest employer, latest job title as well. Find that information of places like a candidate CV or any other places that you may have in the candidate record and extract that data into the right fields to enrich the records you have in Bullhorn. This not only improves your overall data quality from a reporting perspective, it can improve your matching and it can increase the trust your team has in the quality in your ATS so they can rely less on those external sources. Another type of agents could be a matching agent that automatically finds the best suitable candidates for a job and goes as far as shortlist them against the job on its own. Then there is a messaging agent that could engage those candidates with hyper-personalized messages and see if they're interested in the role, and even invite them to go through an interview with a screening agent. That screening agent could now be the first layer of interviewing for those candidates to better qualify who is a good fit for that job in question and who isn't, before the recruiter needs to get involved themselves. So let's take a look at each of these in a little bit more detail. Let's start with the AI assistant. So the strategy behind the AI assistant is to put it pretty much everywhere your recruiters might need it in Bullhorn to help them in their day-to-day content creation. Currently in the job card, candidates can use it for things like summarizing profiles, improving CVs or anonymizing CVs, improving job descriptions, both internally or building external job descriptions, and even extracting screening questions. There are a few benefits behind having an AI assistant integrated in your system. If today a recruiter has to go back and forth in between your system of record and a third party like a ChatGPT, especially if it's a free version, then they have to copy and paste a lot of data. They have to extract sensitive information that might be sitting in Bullhorn at the moment and put it into that GPT so they can tailor the content to be exactly what they want it to be. And then they have to copy the outcome and put it back into the ATS or whatever they needed. So that creates a lot of extra clicks and a lot of unnecessary effort for the recruiter. By embedding the AI assistant into Bullhorn, they can create that content on the spot in different places throughout the system. That's the first benefit. Then they also don't need to extract any information. They can just inject whatever is already in Bullhorn as part of that prompt, and no sensitive data needs to leave the system at any time. As far as the prompts are concerned, that's another big thing. People don't realize that building prompts, it's actually quite a complicated process. And your recruiters don't need to become prompt engineers to be able to be good at what they do, right? So with the AI assistant, they will have prompts that are pre-built for them off the back of best practices in the industry that they can execute straight away. The other benefit for you as organizations is that you will also have the control to create your own custom prompts that might be specific to your business or the use cases that you care about. And this is how you start to differentiate yourselves against your competitors. Another added benefit behind this is the security element, especially in cases where your team is using a free version of an LLM. In most cases, those LLMs are learning from your data and usage. In our industry and the type of data that you work with, considering how sensitive that is, this can be a big risk from a compliance perspective. Having an integrated LLM into your ATS adds that layer of security so that your data is not used to train it further and your data stays where it is, which is with you. Final part on the AI assistant is that yes, it is used by your recruiters as a user-driven tool, but it can also become agentic when powered by automation. You will see more about the AI assistant in the next couple of episodes, so make sure to join us for those and you'll see it in action. Now, the next one is search and match. Search and match uses AI in a few different ways to help your recruiters be smarter and faster in finding the best suitable candidates for their jobs. So we're going to break this down. The first half of the process is search and match will use AI to extract the right keywords from your jobs, then apply what we call keyword expansion. So rather than using your one or two keywords from that job description, it will also include any potential synonyms for that keyword or other ways in which it might be written in the candidate profile to build a larger job-specific Boolean string that will then execute against your database. That's the first half of where AI gets involved. The second half is once those results get surfaced, before they're shown to your recruiters, search and match will pass them through Bullhorn's machine learning model. That's a model that is trained on over 20 billion data points that include communication history, note history, and outcome-based data like submission and placement history to determine for that particular job, what is the ideal candidate profile. And this model will help rank the candidates to see who out of everyone that has been matched is the best possible fit for that particular job. And this will be the order in which those candidates will be displayed to your recruiters. The best part about this is that every time your recruiter opens a job in Bullhorn or creates a new job in Bullhorn, this whole process will run in the background and the top 10 recommended candidates will be displayed in the job record itself. They can preview the candidates, they can shortlist them against the job there and then, or if they want to, they can also expand that into a full-blown search in the ATS to see who else is relevant. If they deem it necessary, they can also add additional criteria to make the search more specific. And even your most junior recruiters will be able to build complex Boolean searches because they'll be able to tap into that keyword expansion service. For any searches that your team is running on a regular basis, you can even have them run in the background and continue to look for candidates that match that criteria and alert your recruiters whenever those candidates are found so they can take action there and then. Search and match will be a focus of our third episode for this webinar series. So if you want to learn more on that, make sure you sign up for it and you check it out. Okay, let's talk about screening. So the screening agent can be an incredibly powerful tool for different ways. It can improve your recruiter's productivity. It can improve your candidate's experience. and it can improve your overall business performance and brand reputation. Let's put this in an example where you've advertised a job and you now have received a lot of applicants for that job. Typically, the recruiter will have to go through every application. They will have to go through every candidate CV to determine who they deem good enough to speak to and which candidates they need to reject. Now, this is not a great way for the recruiter to spend their time, right? And because they're pressured by time and they have all the other things that they need to take care of on a daily basis, your average recruiter spends about 4 to 7 seconds per CV. That's nowhere near enough time to determine if a candidate is suitable for a job or not. So this creates a bunch of risks. The first one is that the recruiter might end up picking candidates that look good on paper, but are actually not a good fit for that job. So they could have some pretty disappointing conversations with those candidates, which could lead to time wasted in previewing their CV and time wasted in having those poor conversations. The other risk, which might even be bigger, is the fact that they might miss out on some really good candidates that maybe didn't look that good on paper based on those 4 to 7 seconds, but might be a really good fit for that job. And the screening agent helps combat that exact challenge, because every time a candidate applies for a job, the screening agent could be that first layer for interviewing to ask those candidates questions that are specific to the job description. And then based on that interview, it can summarize that conversation, it can analyze the quality of the interview and score that candidate for the job. These are additional insights that then the recruiter can use to determine who is actually a good fit for the role, so they should be speaking with and who they should reject. They don't have to spend that time going through all the CVs, and you're removing the risk or significantly reducing the risk of them having potentially some disappointing conversations with candidates that looked good, but actually are not good a fit of a job, or candidates that they would have initially ignored just because they didn't look good on paper. From a candidate's perspective, when candidates apply for a job, usually they have to wait for a few days, maybe weeks, to get a response for that application. The screening agent could get involved within minutes of their application and be that first interview. So from a candidate perspective, they don't have to wait around, and you're promoting self-service so they can go through that first interview themselves. Another big benefit behind this is that people usually apply for jobs outside of working hours. And if they can go through that first interview within minutes of their application, by the time your recruiter gets in the office on the next day, they not only could have a list of candidates that applied for a job, but a list of candidates that have already applied and have been pre-interviewed and qualified by the screening agent. Those can be the first people that they reach out to and potentially introduce to your customers. If we think about speed to market being so important, this is how you can help your recruiters introduce highly skilled candidates to your clients before your competitors and get them placed quicker. The screening agent will be a focus on the next episode of the webinar series, so you make sure you join us for that one if you want to learn more. Okay, I threw a lot of information at you as to what these tools can do at a high level. Let's just put Bullhorn AI in action to show you all the different places in the recruitment process where your consultants can use this technology. So the recruiter can start by creating the job, receives it from the client and adds it in Bullhorn. This is the first instance where they can tap into the AI assistant to help them enrich that record. They can use it to improve the internal description, to create an external description, to extract a set of screening questions for that job, or even find key information in the job description that they might want to put in specific fields on the job to enrich the record. Once that's done, the recruiter can use AI search and match to see the most recommended candidates for that job, or execute a full-blown search in the database, add more criteria to find who is most suitable for them. Once that's done, they can shortlist these candidates and use the AI assistant to create hyper-personalized messages to engage each candidate for each job, and invite them to go through an interview process with the screening agent. Once the screening agent interviews these candidates, it will analyze the conversation, it will score the candidates, and it will recommend next steps for the recruiter. Based on that, the recruiter can choose who they want to reject, or which candidates, with the help of the AI assistant, they want to invite to book time in their diary. And that is the time in which the recruiter will get involved and have a conversation with those highly skilled, pre-qualified candidates that they can then introduce to your customers. So, as we see in pretty much every part of the recruitment process, from job creation to the first recruiter interview, your consultants can use AI to support them in one shape or form. But this is only the user-driven side. Let's put this in an agentic world. Your recruiter still adds the job in Bullhorn, but now it's the does that process. The enrichment agent will improve the internal description. You'll create an external description. You'll extract the screening questions and other key data from the job and put it into the relevant fields to enrich the profile. Then the matching agent will find the top recommended candidates and go ahead and shortlist those candidates against the job. At this point, the messaging agent will send hyper-personalized messages to all those candidates and invite them to go through the first interview with the screening agent. The screening agent will interview them, score them, and then depending on that score, if it's below a specific number that you have determined, the messaging agent could send those unsuccessful candidates rejection emails and even maybe recommend other jobs that they might be a better fit for. Or the candidates that have scored above a specific number, the messaging agent can then invite to book time in the recruiter's diary for a one-on-one conversation, and that will be the time in which your recruiter gets involved. Now, I want to stress out that from an agentic perspective, you can start and stop where this process is automated and where it isn't. So you can still have hands-on experience or where you want it to be. But in terms of the art of the possible and what you can achieve today, you can pretty much create a lights out experience from job creation to recruiter interview for your consultants. Now, as we're wrapping out the series, I want to leave you with a few things because you are going to start planning your AI strategy. And these are actually quite important for anyone that wants to build and execute on AI successfully. AI is transformative technology in a very similar way to what automation was 5 to 6 years ago, meaning that change management is going to be a challenge for some companies. A great first step to create that level of comfort across your business and help improve adoption very quickly is to have AI integrated into your ATS. If you can embed it in your existing workflows, that means that your consultants will be more open to using that technology. And it also means that it'll be a lot easier for you to embed it in new workflows that you might develop as you start to transform the way you work. The second part of this is the safety of data. If you're using point solutions, especially if you're using free versions of point solutions, chances are that your data is being used to try to train the LLM models, which again, in our industry can be a big compliance risk, right? Having AI integrated into your ATS adds that layer of security so that your data is not used to train the LLM in any shape or form for content creation. Your data stays where it's supposed to be, which is with you. And by having AI integrated, this is the final part, you can scale your AI strategy a lot quicker across your organization. With that said, I want to thank you all for joining me today. This is the QR code. Our marketing team will now drop the link for the second episode as well, so you can sign up, and also the grid reports. Next episode, we'll do a deep dive on the screening agent and all the other agents that we have for Bullhorn so that you can see them in action. You'll see a demo of those products, and you can ask any product-specific questions that you might have. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.